This video is brought to you by Tom's Diecast Kits and Collectibles. So again, I've really been enjoying these quick builds of these 143 diecast cars, repainting them and rebuilding them into the specs that I wanted them to be. Now luckily it seems that you guys seem to be enjoying them as well, as the videos are doing pretty good. So I figured time for another one, this time an Aston Martin DB11. After a bit of disassembly, all of the plastic parts have been removed from the body, so I could move on to removing the paint in order to get it repainted. I put the body into a plastic bag as usual, then pour the paint stripper on top of it and let it sit for a bit while it eats away at the paint. After the paint stripper has done its job, I pour the remaining paint stripper back into the bottle, then wash the body off of the old paint, and I am left with a clean metal body in order to move on to the next stage, which will of course be to sand it all nice and smooth, remove a couple of the imperfections, and make sure that the paint has a nice surface to adhere to. The sanding and prepping has now been done, so I could move on to a couple coats of primer. For this one I will be going with a two-tone on the body. One part will be carbon fiber for the roof, the side skirts, the front splitter, and also the rear diffuser, even the mirrors as well while I'm at it too. So I laid down a nice base coat of carbon ceramic black from Zero Paints to give it a nice coat of contrasting color underneath the carbon fiber, so that if there are some holes or some parts that don't line up perfectly, the paint will have a similar color and just cover that up pretty much. A couple coats of ceramic gray later, I let it sit and dry overnight before I moved on to masking off all the areas that needed to remain at that ceramic gray, and then of course to apply the main body color, which is a color from Mini. It's a deep blue. This was also sprayed on in multiple coats, and then I let it cure for a bit before quickly removing all of the masking tape and revealing the initial two-tone effect. With the masking removed, I moved on to applying a nice coat of clear to give it a nice protected surface for all of the paint, and also a nice and smooth surface for the decals to be applied on top of later. I then let the clear coat dry for a couple of days before moving on to sanding it smooth, removing some dust or imperfections that might be in it, and also a bit of the orange peel to make the surface underneath even smoother. I then moved on to creating a couple of templates for the carbon fiber decals with some masking tape and a permanent marker. Once all of the templates were completed, I could move on to the carbon fiber decal process itself, removing the templates from the body and transferring them onto the decal sheet, and then cutting them out carefully one by one. Once they were all cut out, I removed the masking tape from the decals, placed the decals in water to let them soak a bit and get loose from the backing paper, then put some setting solution onto the body itself before placing the decal on top. Then of course it was a long and tedious process of forming and shaping the decal with some setting solution, some heat, and just some time. If you want to know more about the specific process of applying decals, feel free to check out my channel. There are multiple videos on this subject. Once all of the decals were then of course placed and formed, I let them dry for about 2 days before moving on to clear coating. A couple more coats of clear were then added. While the body was set aside, I moved on to the interior. This was painted in a primer first, and then of course I moved on to the main color. In this case I decided to go for a pretty much full orange leather interior, and I went with a Rosso Arancio from Lamborghini. It of course would look a little bit weird if the entire interior would be just orange, so I decided to add a bit of details with some gunmetal, some semi-gloss black, and also some gloss black here and there, like on the dashboard, the door panels, and even some silver on the rear seats for the speakers. With all of the tiny details now added to the in and exterior, it was time to put it all back together. I'm just using some Bob Smith Industries Super Gold Plus, as this is a safe super glue for pretty much all surfaces. It works really well, really quick, and I could move through this process pretty quickly. And with the wheels back on, that's it for this rebuild. Now, if you have any ideas for future rebuilds you want me to do, feel free to check out the Tom's website in the links below and let me know which one you'd like to see me do, and maybe we can figure it out for a future build.